Welcome to the Hunt for the Arkenstein, a unique board game where you can take control of Thorin's company as they scour the lands of Middle-earth in search of the precious Arkenstein. This box set comes with a remarkably detailed collection of dwarves, known as Dwalin, Balin, Kili, Fili, Dori, Nori, Ori, Oin, Gloin, Biffa, Boffa, Bomber, and the leader of the group, Thorin Oakenshield. Along for the journey as well are Gandalf the Grey, wizard extraordinaire, and a hobbit named Bilbo, who's ready for an adventure. These miniatures come set in golden plastic, making them ready to start playing if you want to jump straight into the game. However, in today's video, I'll be walking through how to make each one stand out by adding paint to your all-new company of heroes, readying them to start their great hunt across Middle-earth. But before we get into painting, we'll want to build the miniatures. We'll need some clippers, a mold line remover, and plastic glue. An important note for those under 16 is to have a parent or guardian to help you out when snipping and gluing these tiny parts together. You'll also notice these fine lines occasionally running through the sides of the models. These are known as mold lines, which is a little bit of excess plastic left from the molding process. This is easily removed by using a mold line remover by lightly scraping the excess off. Now the miniatures are all cleaned up, I'll glue the pieces together, pop them into their bases, and now we're ready to paint. The paints we'll be using are on screen now. You can also find the paint list in the description below. We also have a list of all the additional equipment we've used, but you can use whatever brushes you feel most comfortable with. If you are new to painting and want to know more about the paints and techniques used in this video, check out our Painting Essentials playlist on the YouTube channel. To begin, we'll need to apply an undercoat to these miniatures. For this important first step of paint, I'm using Abaddon Black and an extra large base brush to cover the surface quickly. This paint offers excellent coverage, and since it's a dark tone, it'll help maintain the depth of shaded areas. If you'd like to know more about this essential first step, we have a video covering all things undercoating on our channel. The trick with this layer of paint, and all others, is to control how much paint is on the brush. Less is always more, and removing the excess on a palette will help keep each layer as smooth as possible. Adding a drop of water to the paint will also help loosen it slightly, allowing it to flow more effortlessly off the brush. Once the first layer is dried, give it a once over. If there are any areas that still look a little patchy, applying a second layer like this will give them a fuller colour. With the undercoat on, we can start adding base coats of colour to our heroes. This step is going to provide a block colour to each section of the miniature, letting all the details stand out. Plus, we have a handy video that goes into more detail on base coating on our channel. The Hunt for the Arkenstein board game also comes with a very handy model showcase page that can be used as a reference to know where to place each colour and to know who's who. There are a lot of dwarfs after all. To start the base coats, I'm focusing on painting all the fabrics. I'm using Khorne Red to paint the tunics of Balin, Dori, Oin and Gloin, along with Bilbo's coat. For the greens on Bomber's undershirt, I'm using Death Guard Green, which will also work on Bilbo's waistcoat, then fully coating Dwalin's tunic and shirt along with Gloin's trousers too. Mechanica Standard Grey works beautifully for all the darker grey based tunics on Kili, Fili, Ori and Nori. I'm adding some to Bomber's trousers while I'm at it, along with Oin's hooded cloak. Plus, I'll paint Gandalf's robes, which will look brilliant in this colour too. While we're working on the greys, I'm going to use Greyseer's lighter tone, which will work a treat on Gandalf's hat, along with picking out a few fabric details on both Fili and Nori's tunics by blocking in a few areas with this colour as well. Then there's Biffa and Boffa's tan tunics. I'm using Zandri Dust to help achieve this sandy brown tone on their clothes. Then for Biffa, I'm being careful to leave this blackened line as seen on the showcase page. Although if some paint gets on this area, I can go back in with Abaddon Black and clean up those areas if need be. The last areas for this colour will be Bilbo's scarf and walking stick. Thorin's up last and is rather unique with his lovely blue tunic, which will look great in Kantor Blue. Amazing work! With the bulk of the colours placed, we can now move on to painting the brown leathers and wooden details. For this, I'm starting with Dryad Bark for the darker tones. I'll paint this onto things like belts, bags and scabbards, to their boots and any arm guards across the company. I'm also going to be adding this to any remaining cloth, such as Bomber's jacket, Boffa's hat, Dwalin's fur pelt and Bilbo's trousers. This colour, as the name suggests, is also a fantastic colour for wood. So I'm going to go around painting this onto the polearms of two-handed weapons and even Gandalf's staff. And let's not forget Bomber's spoon. With all the fabric and wooden details base coated, we can now move on to painting their faces and all-important beards. I'll begin with painting Bugman's Glow on all the miniatures' faces and exposed hands for an easy peasy skin tone. Doing this first lets us be a little bit messy around the beards, as we can tidy them up with the beard colours. If any areas need a little tidy up, like these bits around the hands, I'll nip back in and paint those areas with the original base colour for a sharper finish. With the faces painted, let's get those beards ready for battle. Looking over the model showcase sheet, we can see there's a variety of different hair colours: black, brown, white and ginger. To start, I'm using Abaddon Black to paint Thorin's hair and Biffa's great big bushy beard. Dryad Bark is a lovely dark brown tone that'll look great on Killy, Boffa, Ori and Dwalin's hairy features. I'll then paint Greyseer onto Oin's beard. Then, for a lighter brown hair, I'm painting Zandri Dust onto Philly, Nori and even Bilbo's hair while we're at it. I'll next paint Balin, Dori and Gandalf's white hair with Corax White, finishing things off with Jokaero Orange for Glóin and Bombur. With the final beards complete, we have one last base coat to apply to all the silver metallics. I'm using Leadbelcher here to paint all their weapons and the final tiny details across the models. There's things like little beards that might be found in their hair, belt buckles, and the scaled armour on Thorin. Oh yeah, now the metallics are on, our models are now fully base coated. Excellent work. With this stage done, we can now add a whole new type of paint to the scheme: shade paints. But before that, we'll want to change our water after using metallic paints. This is because metallic paints just love to leave tiny flecks of metallic pigment in the water that may mix into other paints later. Lovely stuff. Fresh water ready? Let's get shading. This step is going to take these block colours and take them to a whole new level by creating depth and shadow in all the details. This technique is known as shading, and if you'd like to know more about this handy technique, we have a video on our channel that has you covered. The first shade paint I'm using is Reikland Fleshshade, and a medium shade brush to soak up as much shade paint as possible onto our brush. You can use this straight from the pot for a darker colour, but I like to add a drop of water to the paint to lighten it slightly, which gives me more control while painting. As I go around the faces, I'm also going to paint this onto some of the beards for a rosier look. Specifically, Gandalf, Dori, Bombur, Glóin, Nori, and finally Bilbo. Talking of Bilbo, I'll add Reikland Fleshshade to his walking stick, scarf and trousers, which will also work on Biffa and Boffa's tunics, darkening them down while keeping a warm reddish tone throughout the clothing. Another note when using shades is to make sure areas aren't loaded with too much paint. This is called pooling and can be easily soaked up with a clean, damp brush. For a clean black shade for all the metalwork, remaining beards and darker clothes, I'm using Nuln oil straight from the pot and painting this onto all the remaining areas across the whole company. And as before, making sure to soak up any excess where needed. Leaving Thorin's company fully prepared and ready to hunt for the precious Arkenstein. You can call them ready for their journey here, but with one extra optional dry brushing step, we can take them all the way. And let's show you just how to do that. For this, we'll need a piece of paper towel, Screaming Skull, and a small dry brush. I'll add some paint to the brush and remove as much as I can on a paper towel, leaving a light amount of dry paint on the bristles. I'll then add this by flicking the brush over the raised details and sharp edges of each model. Focusing on the faces and beards will help pick out all the lovely details on them. This technique is super simple and massively effective. And if you're after any extra tips on how to get the best results with dry brushing, we have a video all about it on our channel. With the dry brush complete, Thorin's company is fully painted. For the final touch, let's get these miniatures based. And for this, I'm going to use Stirland Mud and a texture tool to complete the look. Using the large end to scoop out the texture from the pot and onto the base, we'll then use the smaller side to maneuver the texture around their feet. Once that's dry, I'll add some mordant corpse grass tufts. Tufts are a fantastic way of adding details to your bases, and they are super easy to use. They come with a little bit of sticky residue on the underside, so all you have to do is place them where you want them, and with the texture tool we can press them into position. Once all the grass is placed, I'll neaten up the rim of the base with Abaddon Black, and there we go. Thorin's company is complete and ready for the board. For more painting videos, head over to our YouTube channel. Or if you need more hands-on help, you can always pop to one of our Warhammer stores where our friendly staff will be happy to help. Ciao, and thanks for watching.